Welcome back for our match of the week. It's Fnatic versus Origen, and it's going to be breathtaking.
It's a...
What was that for Skurin?
You're breathtaking!
Oh, we are breathtaking.
Yeah, we are actually really breathtaking. Thank you very much for that, Froskurin.
You know what else is going to be breathtaking? Europe, the LEC Summer Finals are coming to Athens, where the first modern Olympic Games were held in 1896. Now, League of Legends is joining this city's legacy as a flagship in sports history.
Woo, it's going to be exciting.
It's gonna be great.
I cannot wait to go there and see
Have you
all the live
been working
action.
out your Olympic skills? Doing a marathon?
Yes,
Do a sprint?
I'm now the perfect Olympian. That is confirmed. I can confirm it.
I've known it for a while.
You're going to see a lot of me. No, I'm not going to commit
you
to that.
stop there.
You know what? Fnatic versus Origen.
Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game.
So, Origen, they looked extremely strong when they went up against G2 last week. One of the things that I thought was particularly impressive was when I look back at their draft, I think they actually made things a lot harder for themselves than they really needed to. Largely because their composition didn't have very strong early game tools. And as we know, G2 is a team that actually likes to play a lot through their early and mid game. And Origen's plan was very much to let's see if we can go even in lane against G2 and then transitions that into a strong mid game. It ended up being a very chaotic game, a lot of mistakes back and forth, a lot of fighting, a couple of mispositions. But ultimately what we got to see was a standout performance from Patrick down towards the bot side of the map. And we also got to see a couple of learnings from Origen where moving into their matchup against Fnatic, I expect their draft to shift because we've seen nothing but strong early games from the side of Broxah.
Broxah had such a strong performance in week one. I think a few people were wondering if he'd come into the split with explosive form after there were some questions about his position coming into summer. But the way that he played in week one was absolutely exemplary. And I think if you're Fnatic, you're just hoping he can replicate that against probably slightly stronger teams than they faced last week.
Yeah, I think that what we have to remember is that this is a rematch of 2 versus 3 from Spring Split. Fnatic believe that the reason why they lost was because Origen had a better understanding of the zone attack. Nukeduck was very vocal about how that's just an excuse and how that's not really the reason why they won. Origen was the better team and they were better at adapting to things that are new. And Origen believe that they have the better read on the meta. They've brought out the Sejuani Camille. They've also showcased things like the Jace Ezreal. And Fnatic, they're no slouches either though. They brought out the Jax. They've also brought out the Aurelia for the mid lane. I'm excited to see what this draft looks like and how these two teams have prepared for one another.
So am I. We are seeing a lot of those Sona plus X bot lanes as well, so Fnatic will hope to have a better read on it as we do get into Champion Select in a moment. If you're looking at this, if you're looking at the first few rotations of picks, Vedius, what are your priority picks for these teams? Where should they be looking in those opening selections?
Well, there's still the big powerhouse champions that you have to respect when it comes to the draft. Things like Aurelia, Sylas, Aatrox, Yuumi, things that are very often banned. You also have to take into account the reckless effect, where things like Sivir can raise in priority because of how talented he is on that champion. So Origen may look to take that one away. We're also seeing the Sona being banned away from Fnatic. They don't want to have to deal or play with that anymore, so that's going to limit that option down towards the bot side of the map. But things like Sylas is still open, Aatrox is still open. We know that Whipper would love to get his hands on that should it be up and available. I wouldn't be surprised to see Origen take that one off the board, and no real surprise to see the Sejuani banned away either. Considered definitely an S-tier jungler right now by many pros. One of the big priority champions that you want to get your hands on early.
I mean, Cole played it twice last week as well. We saw it teamed up with Nukeduck's Camille in the mid lane in their first victory. Here we have the Rise ban coming out next from Origen. As you said, Sylas, Aurelia still open. Even things like the Lee Sin or the Elise if Broxah wants to go for those early game junglers.
Interesting Draven ban, showing that respect towards Patrick. We do know that he's willing to play these aggressive champions down towards the bot side of the map, and we know that he's been playing a lot more aggressively in last week. So I'm excited to see what I'm expecting the Aatrox ban. You have to take that one away unless Origen have something prepared to deal with it. We know that Alphari does love to play the Kennen up towards the top side, which can be a good matchup in the early laning phases, but will struggle as the game progresses. And it will actually be the Aurelia, so surely you're expecting Fnatic to prioritize that Aatrox.
That is the expectation, but the Sylas is still there as well if you want to get Nemesis
That's true.
Get his hands on that strong mid lane pick. Origen, as you say, we expect to have some of those counters, and if Fnatic don't go towards one of those power picks, then you would have Origen picking them both up. Sylas is the lock for Fnatic, and now Origen can go towards Aatrox if they want.
Well, maybe it's not that high of a priority for both these teams. Maybe Origen expected Fnatic to prioritize the Aatrox, but with this Sylas pivot, Origen now have to take the route in a different direction. Wouldn't be surprised if we see something like an early Jarvan, maybe an early Xayah, Rakan, both very strong in the current meta and also very potent. But it looks like Origen, they've actually defied my expectations and have said, you know what, we'll lock this Aatrox in. They can flex it both mid and top, remember.
I guess the concern is if you don't pick it here, Fnatic just pick it next rotation, right? Whippo gets it, and then you give it across those two powerful picks in the solo lanes. Origen looking for their next pick here. Expect to see something relatively safe. The Xayah is something you mentioned, Vedius. Very strong AD carry down towards the bottom side, and Patrick will put his hands on that poultry in the bottom lane.
Now, I wonder what Reckless and Hylissang have prepared for the Xayah Rakan. You would imagine that they would either look to take the Rakan away and go for something like the Sivir themselves, or they could go in a different direction. They could bring out something unique. We have not seen any Kai'Sa over the last few weeks here in Europe. We've heard a lot about the new build that she's been going towards, but Europeans have not really been a big fan of it. But who was I kidding? I thought maybe they could consider something like the Ezreal, but of course, when Sivir is open, it is one of Reckless's most famous champions, and he's immediately going to lock that one in.
Yeah, getting to that 500 CS win condition is a must for Fnatic. We actually saw Reckless hitting 400 CS at the 30-minute mark last week, so he knows exactly how to pilot that champ down towards the bottom side. But there is the Rakan stolen away from Origen, so we're not going to see Xayah alongside her lover down towards that bottom lane. Origen, you thought they might have an answer. The Lux is one we've seen cropping up.
Well, it's the answer over in the LCK. Lux is actually one of the most picked supports over towards the east. And I think that it's also a very good matchup into the Rakan as well. We already saw it last week being played. So I think Origen is very happy with this 2v2 down towards the bot side of the map. And both teams right now have strong solo laners in the form of Aatrox and Sylas. Remember, both can be flexed, so ultimately Origen will get to decide who goes where because they're on the red side, they get that final pick counter. But Fnatic right now have a lot of options in terms of being able to get the jungle counter matchup, which will favor Broxah, to allow him to play towards that strong early game, which he's done so far in week 1.
So if Fnatic are looking for the jungle counter matchup, how can Origen play this? Because you could just pick a safe solo laner and then get the jungle counter for yourselves if you're Origen.
Well, right now, what it looks like Origen is doing is they're just trying to ban away top laners, because this kind of suggests that they want to primarily put Aatrox up towards the top side. And given that we already talked about counter junglers, Fnatic right now are looking to limit that jungle pool so that they can try and get the best possible jungle matchup. I think that champions like Elise and, Rek'Sai and Olaf would be, well, Jarvan would probably be the safest blind right now. And I love that we're seeing the Lee Sin ban, because this is kind of suggesting that, you know, Origen don't actually have a lot of engage on their side of the composition right now, and if they grab the Jarvan, it's an easy way to start off fights. And also they have early game playmaking tools that they can look to utilize to maybe play around the Aatrox or even play around this Luxai bot lane.
Well, we'll see if Origen do decide to go for a relatively early jungler. There's the Jarvan taken away, so remove some more of those tools. Now Origen have to either safe pick a solo laner or look for their jungle.
So if Origen go for the Rek'Sai, then Fnatic can go for the Skarner. If they go for the Olaf, they have, I'm trying to think of like good matchups into Olaf, because like a lot of the things have actually been banned away. So I think, I kind of feel like Olaf might be the stronger pick.
That would make a lot of sense here. Rek'Sai is going to be the lock.
But like, it's understandable still. I still think that the Rek'Sai is a very strong early game jungler. I think that she offers a lot in terms of early skirmishing. It's very difficult to match her. And the Skarner is not a strong early game answer, but it does act as a very strong pick tool that if the Rek'Sai ever goes in, you lock them down. And I think that it's seen globally as one of the go-to picks. And we do know that Broxah has it in his pool. He's played it in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that come out from him. He could also go for the Olaf himself. And of course, there is the option for a Gragas as well. A bit of AP to add to the composition. Still good wave clear. Usually you don't go more towards the tanky route these days. You're still building very much towards the AP side of things. And it offers a lot of disengage. It also acts as a way to start off fights. It can be very good at finding picks. Overall, a very versatile jungler. But in the 1v1, can struggle against the likes of Rek'Sai.
I look at this Fnatic comp and I only really see scaling. Their early game not incredibly strong, not that explosive early game that we usually, or that we we can see, especially with Boxer having such strong first 10-15 minutes of his games last week. Now Origen looking for their final pick, expect it to be towards the mid lane. Of course, the Aatrox could be flexed, and you had previously mentioned that Kennen for Alfari in the top lane.
So they do want to get a little bit more AP in their composition, so they will go for the Kennen. They consider this to be a good matchup into the Shen, and it makes sense. Ranged versus melee matchups. We saw what Alfari did against Wonder last week on the Vladimir, building massive CS advantages in the laning phase. And also it adds a little bit more team fight to the composition from Origen. You already mentioned it, Fnatic. Their composition looks like they want to play very much towards the bot side of the map. I do believe that their 2v2 in the mid jungle is a little bit weaker, so Fnatic are a little bit limited in their early game options. But around level 6, once Shen has his ulti, and once the Rakan has the ulti and W setup, then they have a couple of tools in order to try and get their bot lane ahead. Meanwhile, for Origen, because of how strong their 2v2 mid jungle is, I wouldn't be surprised to see Cold spend a lot more time in the early game playing around Nukeduck, allowing him to play aggressive, build up leads, and then maybe look for roams, maybe look for a dive up towards the top side, try and shut down the Shen, or maybe they'll look to try and attack the bot lane early to try and deny any level 6 play from coming out from the side of Fnatic.
It does make a lot of sense, try and shut down Fnatic as they wait to get towards that level 6 mark. Want to set the expectation around Shen. It's not a pick we too commonly see, but in the past when we saw it, we always talk about the first couple of Shen ultimates. If you don't get something from it, if you're not using it proactively, you can be pushed quite far behind. So keep your eyes on Whippo, see what he does with that Shen ult, and if Fnatic can utilize it to get a bottom lane advantage.
We'll see if they're able to do that. Very excited to see this matchup, a rematch of the semifinals from last split. It's going to be an exciting one. Fnatic versus Origen.
Summoner's Rift greets us once again for what is likely to be the match of the week. Fnatic versus Origen, the semi-finalists from Rotterdam. It was a 3-1 scoreline for Origen last time these two teams met. We'll see if Fnatic have turned things in their favor today.
Now we are seeing some early game shenanigans coming out from Fnatic. You'll notice that Nemesis and Bwipo have both moved into the lane towards the bot side of the map. They could be looking for a pick, they could be looking for a delayed invade. It depends if their expectations are that OG will want to try and get into the lane first to try and start building an advantage. But it looks like they won't find anything, so they're just going to disengage for now.
Yeah, because you expect Cold to start top side of the map, getting the red buff on the Rek'Sai so strong for you. You know that Patrick and Mithy might be pushed up in that lane already. And Fnatic were trying to spot that out. Didn't manage to do anything about it. And so they will just back away. Whippo here just helping Hylissang and Rekkles scout out the river before any action really is undertaken.
Yeah, providing an extra member in these early laning phases, especially someone like a Shen who can just skill that taunt at level 1, is definitely valuable and adds a bit of extra security, but also they've decided to swap things up. Notice that Nemesis has actually made his way up towards the top side of the map, and Bwipo is actually going to be going mid. So Fnatic is saying here that they believe that Sylas into Kennen is a much better matchup, or they believe that the Shen is a truly terrible matchup into the Kennen and they want to try and avoid it. But I can also see how Shen would do much better into the Aatrox as well in terms of the 1 versus 1 matchup. Your ability to block a lot of his damage, thanks to the Spirit's Refuge, and also the gank setup that you have, arguably makes your 2v2 a little bit stronger with the Gragas and the Shen. So a quick on-the-fly adaptation coming out from the side of Fnatic.
Not too strong if you miss the taunts, though, as Whippo just goes a little bit wide onto Nukeduck. But we did mention that weak 2v2 from Fnatic, trying to shore up some of their weaknesses in the early game because they do just want to get to those 2-3 items to when Sivir is incredibly powerful and can scale into some of these team fights. Also gives Whippo the opportunity to roam, possibly, if he maybe gets a Tiamat early, pushes in the wave, could look down towards that bottom lane to try and help out his AD carry and support. Good long-range taunt there from Whippo will force Nukeduck back underneath the tower. Takes a tower shot though, but he's still got 3 charges on his Corrupting Potion, and it's only a Doran's Blade for Nukeduck, so Whippo has the Sustain War 1 in that middle lane.
Yeah, the important thing to remember about Aatrox in the early game is he does have very long cooldowns, and Shen does a surprising amount of damage because obviously you get taunted, he gets those resistances, he then gets the increased attack speed as well, and he can be very effective at just these early duels, especially against melee champions. So every time Nukeduck tries to approach the wave, Bwipo is looking for a trade himself, and then of course you have the grasp to give him that extra bit of sustain as well. So demonstrating how well the Shen can do into the Aatrox early. And we'll keep track of this matchup as the game progresses, because this is definitely not a common one that we see.
Not at all. We have to keep our eyes on it. I like this from Cold. Went in, stole away the blue buff. Actually, because Broxah went back for the Predator boots, Cold knew there was an opportunity for him now. If a little bit of a fight over the Scuttle Crab, Alfari on his way down, but Nukeduck forced underneath his tower, meant that Bwipo could come across, and Broxah was safe taking the Scuttle.
Yeah, as you rightly said, it was Bwipo who had priority, which made it that much easier to secure that Scuttle. Cold, he did look for a bit of an invade, getting a bit more information onto where Broxah was, given that he dropped that ward on the wolves, as we see a bit of trading down towards the bot side of the map.
It's a little bit dangerous, actually, from Hylissang. He's going to get the heal up with Gleaming Quill, but maybe trying to pull Patrick and Mithy to overstep as Broxah's on his way down. Broxah not in the best of shapes here as the Scuttle Crab is taken by Cold up towards the top side.
Good spell shield there from Reckless, waiting for the feathers from Patrick before proccing it, because he knows that's where the bulk of the damage comes from, and if he gets rooted, he could be in danger from the Lux as well. Meanwhile, as you rightly noticed, now we see a gank in mid.
Good taunt onto Nukeduck. He's going to try and umbral dash his way up towards the top side. Gets away. There is vision in that bush where Broxah's standing, so Nukeduck knew that the gank was coming before Broxah showed himself in the lane.
We're also seeing what we talked a little bit about earlier on, where by swapping the Shen into the mid, it does make your 2v2 just a little bit stronger. The Gragas does have a decent amount of damage, especially in the early game, and once that taunt lands, then it's that much easier for Broxah to then follow up with his crowd control as well. So I like this play coming out so far from Fnatic. The early game still very even as I said, the OG building up a bit of a gold advantage just because Alfari is running the Kleptomantis, playing against a melee top laner, and that's likely where a lot of the early gold lead is coming from.
I want to thank our observers just for switching Shen around there on the scoreboard. Makes it a lot easier for me to compare CS numbers. You can see it's about a 2 CS difference in the mid lane. Alfari 5 to 6 ahead, about a wave for him, but Nemesis and Alfari have actually just both used their teleports up towards that top lane, so they won't have them for the next fight.
Want to note again how Broxah is still being very active in the early game. He's playing the Gragas. You do have early game options, but notice the difference in farm. Cold has been spending a lot of his time counter jungling, scouting, trying to get information on where Broxah is, but he's also been doing a great job of farming his own half of the map, whereas Broxah, he's looked for multiple ganks. He looked for a couple of opportunities mid, he just looked for a play down bot, and again, just like he did in week 1, he's looking for early game opportunities for Fnatic to try and get the ball rolling very early on.
That he is. Reckless doing a good job down here in the bottom lane. They pushed up that wave. He's a little bit ahead in farm, but Patrick running the teleport, whereas Reckless has run and used that heal down towards the bottom lane, means that Patrick gets back in, has picked himself up with that pickaxe. Cold perhaps looking for something up towards the top side, but I think both junglers are pretty happy, you know, trying to make plays, but then just denying as much vision as possible.
Look at Fnatic on the minimap right now, though. They're sending the bot lane up to mid. They're looking for a play.
Predator in, Whipper with flash, taunt, Hylissang flashes in as well, looking for the chase as Nukeduck tries to get away, but the Grand Entrance will knock him back in his first blood to Hylissang.
Beautifully done from Fnatic. They knew that Patrick and Mithy were going to go back to base. They knew that they could look to make this roam play up towards the mid lane, and it's very common for supports to make this roam once they hit level 4. They had the Shen taunt, they had the Gragas follow-up, very well executed from the side of Fnatic, and they find themselves that early game lead that they were looking for.
Not able to get any plates in the mid lane. Hylissang trying to get a demolished block off, but wasn't able to. Nemesis actually coming up here. Bwipo uses the Stand United to join his mid laner, and Alfari is in for a world of hurt. 2 quick jabs from Fnatic, and another kill on the board.
Great utilization of the Shen ultimate. The moment Bwipo hits 6, he looks for a play, and he finds it topside. The Nemesis ultimate was used to steal away the Cannon ultimate, and that was the perfect setup to allow the duo to find another kill. Fnatic still behind in gold, but lead the game in kills.
I said, what will the first Stand United do? Well, it gets Fnatic a kill. It gets Nemesis on the board. He's in a very strong position now, as that Silas will only get stronger when he picks up his Proto Belt. Now it looks like they're sending him to mid, with Bwipo up towards top lane. Bwipo still has his teleport available.
That's a good note there, Medic. The fact that Bwipo has that TP available means that he can join any fight that should kick off. Broxah with a good steal there, as Cold slightly miscalculates his smite. But the fact Nemesis had used his teleport earlier, which means that if he's sitting in mid lane, now everyone from Fnatic can still join all these skirmishes, whereas Alphari, no teleport available. So again, like, we're seeing a lot of smart decisions coming out from the side of Fnatic. Moving around the map very well, looking to push their advantage whenever they can, and still keeping things very even across the board. The only deficit right now is that Bwipo's a little bit behind in farm to both laners, but you know what? I think he makes up for that in the amount of plays that he's successfully made for his team.
Oh, it definitely does. Has the Tiamat now as well, so can push the waves. We'll have another look at this top lane play. I think it went exactly as you expected, Betties.
Yeah, so we can see, ooh, very quick pan down towards the Shen. See him using his ultimate from base. And it was just a very well thought out, executed play from Fnatic. Nemesis steals away the ultimate, he dashes past the minions, he's able to land the stun as well. And it looked like Alphari just wasn't expecting that play, especially Shen ult to come up towards topside when it looked like Fnatic was so focused on playing around their duo.
And there was a little bit of subversion of expectations from Fnatic, because although Boxer spent a lot of time down towards the bottom lane early on, it's been top and mid that have got them these kills, that have got these leads in the early game. We expect them to move to play around bot, but Cold is looking to play around top. Alphari pops the slicing mouse from Bwipo, has no way of getting away, no flash, and Origen are on the board.
Exactly that. Origen finally find themselves a kill. They punish Bwipo for his aggressive playstyle up towards the top side. Now Broxer is forced to come top lane, try and help clear out these waves. But again, look at the minimap. Keep an eye on what Hylissang is up to. He's already making his way up towards the top lane, given that they realize they can't make much happen down towards the bot side of the map.
And even though Fnatic are 2-1 up on the scoreline, there's still a 1,500 gold lead here for Origen. A lot of that sitting on the cannon. Alphari is sitting at 3,800 gold to only 2,700 on Bwipo, who I'm counting as his counter matchup, even though they're not aligned on the scoreboard.
Also remember that because Rekkles made that roam up towards mid lane, there was a period of time where he wasn't farming, whereas Patrick was. They've also secured themselves 2 plates down towards the bot side, so a small lead has started to build up for Patrick, which is again where this gold lead is helping mount from the side of Origen. But Fnatic, they still want to try and shut down Nukeduck. They're looking for another play.
Yeah, Boxer unable to get in there. Nukeduck did pop the World Ender, so was trying to take one down with him, even if he did fall at the end of it.
Utilizes that bonus movement speed to just get away because he didn't have the flash available. So it was very much a defensive safety ultimate and just in case. And he avoids the play once more as his ultimate is now stolen away by Nemesis.
10 minutes in, Fnatic's trying to get the river control down towards this bottom side as Hylissang and Boxer team up, something we've seen them do so many times in the past. But Origen have been pretty good at keeping vision in isolated spots, enough to see Fnatic on the rotation, even if they can't spot exactly where they are every moment of the game.
The vision has been pretty solid from both sides. Something that Fnatic has done exceptionally well is in the river in particular, something that you were just talking about, Medic. And notice you can see these control walls littered across the map. There are 2 invested bot side, 1 invested top side from Fnatic. And it's just how we talked about Fnatic shouldn't have had that many early game options. It should have really been more in the control of Origen. When you have this Rek'Sai and you're playing with an Aatrox in mid as well, you expect that 2v2 to just be very, very strong. But because they made this pivot with the Shen, it enhanced this 2v2 and it gave Fnatic more options to play around mid, which they've done very, very well in this early game. Because they're the ones that have had control over the mid lane. They're the ones that have been allowed to move into the river earlier, and that has allowed them to get all this vision, which is now being pushed back out because the bot lane of Patrick and Mithy have gained a little bit more control, and they're working with their jungler to set up vision around the Drake.
Yeah, we'll see the jungle and the support duo up so much this game. Both teams well known for that style of play. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Alphari continues to push in. He'll be looking to take down his 3rd plate up towards this top side, but it's kind of that ebb and flow. The wave of Origen crashes forward, gets vision, then Fnatic wave comes back into the river and gains vision control for FNC.
Yeah, there's a lot of trading back and forth, and once again, Fnatic have the right set on the mid lane.
Good flash away from Nukeduck. Broxer misses with the cast. Nemesis can still go with the chase. Here's Hylissang. Nukeduck looking to get across the wall, but the charm from Hylissang gets him his 2nd kill. Cold dodging away through all of the network of tunnels and manages to escape.
But Fnatic once again find a successful gank onto Nukeduck. They are just shutting this Aatrox down, and while the 2v2 might be stronger, Fnatic are never allowing that to happen. It's always 3 or even 4 members trying to shut him down, and once again, Fnatic find themselves another kill, but crucially, still behind in gold. So this game is very even.
This is what we want to see Fnatic doing a little bit more, though. Get the kill, then get something out of it. Get an objective, get the Rift Herald, get the Cloud Drake. Just try and find a little bit more than just that single kill's worth of gold. And that is exactly what they'll do now. They'll grab the Rift Herald, And Whipper will clear out the vision up towards this top side. Fnatic are still behind, but they are in a strong spot considering the scaling options they have on their teams. Not something we talk too much about from Origen. We said they want to get some early plays in, they want to make some early moves on the map. Haven't been able to do that, but they seem to scale pretty well as well. You look at Kennen, you look at an Aatrox, you look at Xayah, that's pretty deadly in the late game.
Yeah, I don't think that the... we'll talk a little bit more about scaling after we see the play. Great stun landed from Nemesis. Nukeduck sidesteps and dodges a lot of the follow-up from Broxah, but unfortunately there's not much that he can do from the taunt and CC that is coming out from the side of Hylissang. So he ends up securing the kill. Cold is forced to run away, but now Origen looking for some revenge.
And Nemesis does have his flash here. Cold going in, can't land the unbow.
Hylissang again.
Hylissang's always around this mid. Reckless very happy just to be on by himself down towards the bottom side, but Alphari trying to join the fight, landing the haymaker. Hylissang forced down into the stopwatch. Mithy comes in as well. The teleport used by Origen as they try and make this a 5v4. Patrick there a little bit late, and Fnatic have been able to disengage.
So all 5 Origen members move towards the mid lane. Patrick had pushed out bot. He had the teleport. Alphari was already on his way, and they nearly punish Hylissang for overcommitting in that play. They don't convert it into anything, as Mithy gets a bit of chip damage down onto a few Fnatic members, but both teams walk away with their lives.
Yeah, Whipper a lot squishier than I'd expect, considering he's not actually been able to build any health so far, really, on that Shen. So Mithy doing quite a lot of damage with the final spark, but expect Whipper to go towards the Titanic Hydra, get some more wave play under his belt, and then it will be a little bit stronger, at least, when it comes to the team fighting stage. Vedi, I want to talk about what happens next, because right now it looks like it might be Whipper getting caught out in the top lane. Alphari going in, uses the Hextech Gunblade, Cold on his way as well. The stun will land, but are they going to chase him underneath the tower? Shen's very difficult to do. The Rift Herald used bot by Fnatic as they look for the first turret of the game.
So notice how Origen, they had initially sent their duo towards the mid lane. They then had Rek'Sai playing around top side, and their whole focus was to try and secure top tower, while Nukeduck just grabbed the bot wave. Meanwhile, Fnatic recognize this, so they keep Nemesis mid and they retain their duo bot lane so they can then convert this into a Rift Herald later. And because they have the Rift Herald, it's easy for them to secure the tower, and now they're looking for another kill.
Hylissang in with the quickness. Nukeduck does have the ultimate though, and Cold is on his way, but Nukeduck falls first. Rift Herald used, there's Alphari with the flank. Brox is going to get chommed down by Cold, and now Hylissang and Reckless are on the wrong side of the rift. Alphari coming in from the side, just needs to land that ultimate. The slicing mouse from available. Reckless trying to dodge around. He'll get taken out by Mithy, and Hylissang will fall as well. The kill gifted to Patrick.
And a great punish from the side of Origen this time round. Fnatic, they had a very clear turret in mind. They had the Rift Herald, and there were going to be few options for Origen to really answer. But because they overcommit for that dive, because they're so determined to get that kill onto Nukeduck, it puts them in a position where they cannot escape from, and this allows Origen to go back to base, return to the map, and shut down Fnatic, and now extend their gold lead to 2.5k.
And it's just, in the end, it's a tower for tower trade, and Origen are the team picking the kills up off the back of it. Now, Cloud Drake is on the menu for Origen as well. Not the most impactful of dragons in the game, but it will help Kennen on those flanks. He tries to get on towards the back line. Cold will secure it, and we'll see which dragon comes up next after this replay.
So here we see, look at the minimap right now. You'll notice that mid and top have been matched, but no Kennen has come back yet. Cold uses an opportunity to go back to base, but even in this situation, sure, maybe he trades one kill, but like, this isn't the end of the world. The problem here from Fnatic is that they're just underneath the tower, behind the tier 2, giving plenty of time for Patrick to roam around. Alphari has gone back to base and walked down, and this was just a big overcommitment from the side of Fnatic that they did not need to make.
Oh, dive onto Nemesis here as Alphari uses the slicing mash from Nemesis, trying to heal himself up as much as possible. It might be enough. The final spark, the tick. It's not enough damage to kill Nemesis. He survives, but the tower will fall shortly after.
Cold does still have the ultimate, but he will not be able to convert it. So Origen, after taking the Drake, sent 3 members down bot to convert that into another objective. Patrick is now trying to group up with his mid lane and to hold off this 3-man unit with the rest of Origen close behind.
Lux on her way. Hylissang trying to get away. Lucent Singularity will not catch him out, and they're able to hold on to the tower for now. And still, Origen are slowly just extending this gold lead. It's about 3,000 now, Vedis, even though it's Fnatic that are making a lot of the plays.
So what Fnatic did after they died was they decided to send 1 person top, 2 people mid, and then 1 person bot. Whereas Origen, after securing the Drake, committed 3 people bot side, which means they were guaranteed a numbers advantage and could convert it into an objective. The problem is Fnatic were too slow to make a decision, and because they only had 2 people mid initially, they couldn't quite secure the mid tower and trade it in there their favor. They will end up getting that top tower, but overall Origen is very fine with this trade because they know they don't have that much top lane control, and they're just going to walk away with the fact that they kept their mid lane alive. They almost secured a kill, but they also secured that bot tower. So now the map is a lot more open, and they can look to play towards this mid tier 1 now.
Looking to set up that deep vision into the flank potential for both of these teams. It's a pretty symmetrical map if you look at it. Both bot towers down, both top towers down, even on the scoreboard. The only difference is that Cloud Drake going across towards Origen and the slight gold lead they have. That gold lead not fully manifesting into items yet. You've got Hextech Gunblade on Alphari, Black Cleaver on Nuke Duck, and the Essence Reaver on Patrick. But on the other side, Reckless actually has an Essence Reaver and a Rapid Fire Cannon complete already. You've got a Proto Belt on Nemesis in the mid lane, and Whippo has finished that Titanic Hydra.
Well, this is the thing. Origen haven't actually gone and reset yet and look to spend their gold, whereas Fnatic have. So they're the ones in control right now, and they're in a much better position to start making plays and trying to gain vision on the map. You know, you already talked about the item differences. Notice how Fnatic feel very confident in moving up in towards this river and lane, and they're actually committing towards the bot side of the map, whereas Origen is committing more towards the top side, while Patrick just hold onto his 1v1. So Origen playing much more towards their strong side right now, whereas Fnatic is doing the same on the opposite side of the map with Nemesis on his Silas. Level 13, 2-level advantage over Nuke Duck, has the Proto Belt completed, nearing the Luden's Echo, and they're just supporting him, allowing him to gain this advantage and secure himself another tower.
Fnatic just seems to be slightly quicker on the trigger, slightly faster tempo from them as they get that bot lane tower, continue to push Nemesis in. Brox is getting vision control in this blue side jungle as well, and at some point, Alphari will be able to take the tower, but the question now becomes how much do you trade either side for these teams? At what point do you pull for a team fight? At what point do you go for a play in the mid lane as Boxer and Nemesis look for it but can't quite find the engage?
Well, I think that when Baron becomes a bigger objective on the map is when we'll start to see more team fights. For the time being, Origen and Fnatic both know that they have a very clear, strong member that they can just leave to their own devices. In this case for Fnatic, it's Nemesis, very strong, level 13, we already said it, and now he has completed that Luden's Echo. Meanwhile, for Origen, they have the cannon, Alphari, Gunblade completed, Morellonomicon completed. This guy is so strong in the 1 versus 1 that you'll likely just see them for the time being continue to play towards these sides of the map. But Infernal is up next, Baron is up soon. And these are two very big objectives that both these teams are going to want to look to play around. And notice how Alphari doesn't have teleport yet, so they've actually kept their strong side towards the bot half of the map. And notice they're not even sending anyone to go and deal with the Shen, they're actually just sending all 4 members down towards mid. Origen want to guarantee a numbers advantage, given that the Drake is spawning soon, and they want to gain priority around the river so they can set up for this objective first.
As you say it, Vedius, that's exactly what they do. Fnatic, though, pinned back into their own jungle, 1 ward behind Origen. There is a teleport available for Nemesis and for Whippo, so make sure if a teamfight does begin, you look at that ward, because Nemesis is down towards the bottom lane. He's pushed out a wave. Origen have now moved back towards mid. They're sending Nuke Duck top, as his teleport will be off cooldown pretty soon. Actually, he's just going to ward the Baron to make sure Fnatic aren't going for it.
So now, this is where Origen seem a little bit split on their decision-making, because Nuke Duck started walking towards top because he thought about trying to catch the wave, but he doesn't have teleport, and this has given a small window for Fnatic to move in and reclaim some of the vision, but OG still have priority. They're the ones in control, and so they're the ones moving to the Drake first, but Fnatic smartly pushing in mid, getting that prio and threatening the tower.
Not going to go for the tower, but the Inferno Dragon has been started. Origen here, baiting Fnatic into a boxing match in the river. Who will land the first punch? Cold gets the Inferno Dragon. Fnatic now forced back. Origen don't want the fight either. They're just going to retreat in towards their jungle, but Fnatic will get the push into mid.
As you rightly said, Medic, Fnatic were the ones that had priority, so they can trade this Infernal for the mid tier 1, and they're going to keep pushing this. The fact that they can clear this wave now allows them to move towards the Baron and top side of the map, where they already have a wave, and they can start getting this deep vision in up against Origen. So even though Origen walk away with an objective, they walk away with an Infernal that they're very happy with, in terms of map control, they lose quite a lot, committing so much to securing that objective.
Can they utilize the extra AD and AP they get out of it to win this game? That's the question, because losing that mid lane tower just opens up so much more opportunity for Fnatic. They can find flanks, they can find pockets of vision, pockets of darkness for Origen, and then find those picks they need to go for the Baron. Nice ward here in the middle of the lane from Mithy to spot out Reckless as he pushes up the wave, but Origen now just happy to spread out once again into their lanes. Defensive stance from them. Cold maybe looking down towards bottom lane. Hylissang has actually just snuck into this bush. They know Nemesis is somewhere in the area, but can Cold react in time? Alphari's going to be jumped on. There comes Bwipo as well with the Stand United, and Fnatic is just looking for the one punch. Done! A total knockout in the bottom lane as Alphari falls.
And this is again Fnatic playing towards their strong side of the map. They know that if they leave Nemesis in the 1 versus 1, he can gain advantages for the team, but they do one better than that. They bring Hylissang down, they commit the Shen ultimate, and that guarantees a numbers advantage against Alphari, meaning that he doesn't even have time to flash away from that objective. So now Fnatic have more members on the board, they have pushing bot, they have 4 members mid, and they can look to start pressuring either this mid tier 2 or potentially even the bot tier 3.
And Fnatic do make the decision to push up mid instead of going straight towards getting Baron vision. Now they can step back because they know Origen have to react to that mid wave, and they will try and clear out as much of this vision as possible.
Well, remember that while Fnatic were committing 3 members bot, Origen could have used that time to gain vision when you can see some of these wards sprinkled around. So Fnatic, they have to be careful now, and they can't just take too many risks because the potential for an Alphari flank could come in. The risk of getting collapsed on is there, so they've got to make sure that they maintain that vision control. Here we see just a very easy play, but just keep an eye on how the mini-map is being set up. Notice the positioning of Sivir. Notice that the top wave is already pushed up. Fnatic were very safe in making this play, and there was very little that Origen could do to punish them for making it.
And you can see Origen unable to get push towards the Fnatic side of the map because that mid lane tower is still up. Talks about how strong it was for Fnatic to take down the Origen mid. Well, Origen unable to really step as far forward as they would like. They're trying to gesture around the river for the moment, but not going to be able to get too much out of it, you have to feel. Maybe looking for the force mid.
So now notice how Fnatic have committed vision into the river, but this has allowed Origen to just gain mid priority. So they'll finally knock this tower down. Cole trying to zone away some of the other Fnatic members, but Bwipo just going to force him back. Ultimately, Origen walk away as a happy team, as they were able to successfully push in bot, force Nemesis to go down and address that. They were able to secure that mid tier 1. But Fnatic maintain vision control around the Baron, and that's the important thing. Because now when they go back to base, when they push out some of their waves and Origen is still catching some of these sides, Fnatic can stock up on all their wards, and there's still a lot on the map. So it's so much easier now for them to maintain control over the Baron, and they're the threatening team right now. Given, again, Origen, they committed to the tower, not vision control around this objective.
Okay, the scrying trinket will spot that out. The far side alteration coming out from Patrick, and Boxer had actually taken quite a lot of damage. Is the AP Gragas that we talked about going towards the Morello Nomicon next. So wasn't able to tank that up as long as he'd like.
Now look at the side. Oh, we see a TP
going for the teleport. Alphari's coming in behind here, looking for the slicing mouse from straight onto Rekkles, but Rekkles flashes away and uses the heal. Alphari unable to find the catch as the Void Rush comes in. Rekkles still alive in this fight, somehow surviving. He'll open up, but eventually he's shut down by Nuke Duck. 2 kills to Origen, and Fnatic have to walk away wounded.
Origen, look at the minimap and see that there are 3 pushing waves against them right now. We have to try and make a play. And remember that when they were committing to that mid tower, they dropped that 1 ward in the lane, and it gave Alphari the perfect opportunity to find a flank and force a fight. Ends up being 2 for 1 in their favor. They can now safely go and catch these waves, and Fnatic can't threaten the Baron off the back of it.
Proactive play there by Origen, pulling the trigger on what could have been a very dicey moment when Alphari wasn't able to really connect with the slicing Maelstrom. I thought it may have all been lost, but the follow-up from Cold, from Nuke Duck, diving on towards that Civic, catching out Rekkles, worked so well for them. Now, Mithy is going to make Bwipo take a little bit of
It's going to be obnoxious.
He's got a shield. This is what you do as supports, Vedius, okay? You can't really influence the game as much as you'd like sometimes. So you're just like, oh, you take a few Baron hits.
Honestly, I think both supports have been pretty impactful so far this game, in particular Hylissang.
Okay, maybe I can't influence the game.
But I loved what he's been doing around the map, because very often you don't get to see supports joining these side lanes and looking to make these plays, and his roams have been beautiful as now. Second and funnel of the game has been started up. Both these teams want to fight for it.
Teleport used by Bwipo. Alphari actually catches Hylissang down to half HP, doesn't have the quickness, doesn't have the flash, doesn't have those engaged tools, but they force them away. Boxer jumps straight onto Patrick, not a moment to flash away, and Fnatic will secure the Infernal.
A lot of cooldowns were still unavailable, in particular that one for Alphari from the side of Origen, so Fnatic felt confident in making that play. They get a very important pick onto Patrick, and now when OG had relieved the pressure, Fnatic are right back on top as they make their way towards the Baron.
So there's 1 ward here. We'll see if Fnatic spot it out. They have not. Okay, they cleared out the pit, but Origen have some awareness of the exact situation in this Baron pit. Fnatic force back. Alphari has the slicing mouse, and Nuke has the ult. Mithy as well. looking for that life binding. If he connects, you have to expect the follow-up from Origen. Fnatic is down to 3,000 HP. Nemesis jumps in with a slicing mountain with his own, but he's sliced up by Alfari. The final spark is not enough. Rippo still on the chase. Baron resetting, but Fnatic are thirsty for blood. They can't find any more as Origen retreats.
Smart decision making there from Fnatic. Don't commit to the Baron when Alfari has his ulti back up. Let's turn and look for a pick. It ends up working out very heavily in their favor. Fnatic have now finally gained themselves the gold lead for a very brief moment so far in this game. But this game is so close. It feels like right now, though, that Fnatic are the ones in control as Origen look to clear out some of the vision around Baron.
And big item spikes being hit by Fnatic now as well. Reckless is about to go back and pick up his Infinity Edge. Let's have another look at this fight because it's Nemesis who steps forward.
So the crucial thing here is that Nemesis has his ulti up and so does Hylissang. So they can just commit onto one target and lock them down. So closely does Hylissang almost lose his life, but fortunately he's able to walk away with it. And he ends up finding that crucial pick onto Alfari and just take stock at some of the level differences we're seeing right now. Nemesis at 16, Bwipo at 15. Reckless, yes, he's a level behind Patrick, who's been picking up a lot of farm thanks to his TP advantage.
This is not good for Hylissang. The grand entrance goes across, but Cold with the chase. Hylissang has to flash, and that's a big team fight. Summoner spell burnt there. Hylissang has found ways into fights without his flash before, but that is a big tool.
And notice how Origen and Fnatic are playing the map very differently right now, because Origen are choosing to group up as 4 to try and force control over certain areas, whereas Fnatic are playing multiple lanes. They're playing the 1-3-1 style. They do have the Shen and they have the Sylas, and they're utilizing those two champions to push in these sides. And if you look at the minimap, you can again see bot is pushed up, top is pushed up, and then they're just utilizing Sivir to maintain mid control. So Origen's only answer is, rather than try and match these side laners, let's just create a numbers advantage, and we can brute force Fnatic out of the river so we can at least gain a little bit of vision control.
Hasn't worked out well for them in the last few fights. From the Inferno to the Baron fight, Fnatic have had their number. Cold looking for a flank here, but needs to get away because Whippo and Broxah are coming in from the sides. He will escape. Predator was burnt by Broxah as well, but not too much lost there.
And I love that you mentioned that as well, because the thing is, every time Origen group up as a 4-man unit to try and force a play, they are losing experience, whereas Fnatic is maximizing it, because their solo laners are getting all this farm, Reckless is getting it in the mid lane, and the only person that's benefiting for Origen is Patrick. So Nukeduck is still very far behind. Alfari is now even with Bwipo, but now Fnatic finally feel confident to force the Baron. Will they be scared off this time round?
So Cold's coming across. He was in the bottom lane pushing it in. Now Whippo has the stand united. He's on the inhibitor tower. Origen, no vision. Lucent Singularity goes in. 3,000 HP left on the Baron. They can burst it. Brilliant cast is used. Cold goes in. Can't get it. Alfari looking for the slicing master straight onto the back line. Cold is on the front line as Boxer goes down. Patrick takes him out. Now Patrick with the Featherstorm. Whippo with the perfect taunt. But the stopwatch is out. Nukeduck needs to do a lot in this fight because Nemesis is shredding through Origen. There is no escape. There is no surviving. Fnatic clean sweep Origen.
Beautiful fight from the side of Fnatic. The teleport is now coming through from Nemesis. He's in the bot lane. He has a minion wave. He has the Baron. And Fnatic are looking to gain revenge after the semi-final last split.
With the inhibitor, the target, Fnatic should be able to close the game from here. 20 seconds on Cold, 17 on Alfari, but the Nexus turrets are the target. Fnatic, after being behind the majority of the game, strike back, find their team fight, and take down Origen.
Excellent game between the two teams, but Fnatic, I loved how they played the side lanes. I love the utilization of Nemesis and Bwipo. In the end, they created a 1-4 situation where they had Shen down towards the bot lane, pressuring that tower with the minion wave that they had stacked up. They forced the Baron, they forced Origen to come and fight them, and Origen, they couldn't make a decision in the moment. They couldn't decide whether to commit for the fight. A great cast from Broxah comes out to deny Cold from getting into the pit. They end up securing it, and Fnatic walk away as the victors.
And looking like an incredibly strong team, probably looking like the second best team in the league right now, undefeated after 3 games played. Origen, on the other hand, they didn't really do too much wrong. It's just Fnatic were able to move them around the map, manipulate them like chess pieces on a board, and then they found the final check.
Well, I think there were a couple of some bad decisions from both teams, and I thought there were a lot of good things from both teams as well. The the best thing I think I saw from Origen was that they recognized often the situation they were in, and I felt like they made the right call in those moments. That team fight in mid, where they forced that TP flank from Alphari, I thought was an excellent play. But then the follow-up Drake afterwards, they weren't in a position to really challenge for it, and I think that they ended up getting punished as a result.
Yeah.
You also need to praise Fnatic for their ability to shut down Nukeduck in the mid lane. They did a great job of denying him and getting Nemesis into a position where he was creating so much pressure on the map. But also, like, Hylissang was so impactful in this game. His roams to the side lanes and the numbers advantages that he created were excellent, and it allowed Fnatic to maintain pressure pretty much throughout the entirety of the map. So Nemesis and Hylissang were really two standout performers for me in this game.
And definitely both played incredibly well. You know what this builds hype for, Vedius? Not only the summer split and our fight for the top spot, but also for Rift Rivals. I am very excited seeing Fnatic, Origen, and G2 going over to NA in just a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. I'm sure Origen are going to be a little frustrated with this loss, though. I quite like the draft that they had, but I felt like that we didn't see a lot from Cold in the early game. Every time he showed up, it was that Broxah and Hylissang was there, so he couldn't really turn it around because every single time he was at a numbers disadvantage, and ultimately that was the biggest discrepancy. Mythy, even though his Lux was fine, he didn't have a bad Lux game, I don't think. It just didn't have the same map impact that Hylissang was able to do on the Rakan.
It's definitely one of the strengths of Rakan as well, because you can get into a fight from so far away. Broxah's actually joining us on the analyst desk for a post-match breakdown in just a couple of minutes' time, so that's very exciting, I have to say. If you think that's Broxah, Nemesis, or Hylissang had a strong performance, and by the way, they all did, you can vote for them as Kia Player of the Game at LOL Esports on Twitter. I'm a support main, and so I'd vote for Hylissang, personally.
I personally think Hylissang had a fantastic game, and I think that Fnatic, they made a lot of smart map movements, but like from the level 1 to some questionable decisions in the mid game. Ultimately, I think overall it was a very great game, and like the Bwipo swap into mid, I thought was very smart. I like that adaptation from Fnatic. And I felt like Nukeduck struggled to really have an impact in this game. But also, on the side of OG, props to Patrick and Alphari for doing what they can in the situation they were in. Patrick, he was in the right place at the right time pretty much every fight. He didn't quite have the same perks lead, so he wasn't quite as carry. He couldn't be as big of a carry on that Xayah, but also Alphari generated a lot of pressure, as he often does on this cannon. But at the end of the day, Fnatic were the one that played the map better. They came out on top, and it was a great game to watch.
And we did, and we're going to hear from their mid laner Nemesis to see what he has to say after winning our match of the week.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you so much, Nemesis, for joining me, because I feel like it's the first time you're joining me on broadcast. So I want to know, tell me about your development as a player since you joined Fnatic in spring.
I think my transition to Fnatic was very easy. Spring split was, I was jailed by Lissandra a bit, and now summer split, now that she's gone, I'm finally free.
And you look much freer, by the way. I want to know, you wake up one day, you get a phone call from Worlds finalists saying that you are to replace Caps in the mid lane. What goes through your head? Because it's crazy.
I was very nervous when I got the call. The first thing that went through my head was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get a OnePlus phone.
And how does it feel a few months afterwards? Did you find your marks? Is everything good?
Yeah, everything is good.
Awesome. Now back to present times. You had an amazing week last week, especially as a jungle mid duo. So tell me about the relationship you can have with Broxah on the Rift.
I think every person who joins a team, relationship that starts, at the start they're like very slow, but the more you play together, the better you get. So now that we have played together for quite some time, we're getting better.
And it looks like it. When we see you guys in game, you really look like a better version of yourselves in spring. So congrats on that. Thank you so much for joining me. And we have many things to say about the games you just had against Origen. So let's send it back to Shux.
Can't hear anything. Well, it's fine. He doesn't need to hear anything. Just needs to hear us. Thank you, Lol. Excuse me. We're just getting Broxah set up here. He's a funny guy, isn't he, Nemesis? We don't often hear him talk. I mean, I guess you do, hopefully, more often than us.
Yeah, I hear him talk quite a lot. I didn't get to hear the interview, sadly, but I'm sure that he was quite a comedian out there.
Yeah,
Be surprised.
he's always very like cool, calm, and collected. Of course, welcome, Roxa, and congratulations.
Thank you.
That was quite the game, so thank you for joining us. We're going to start by talking about the picks and bans. Ender had a lot to say about, especially the bot lane, I think.
Yeah, I thought the bot lane was pretty interesting because as soon as Origen went ahead and picked up the Xayah, I was immediately thinking it was going to be the Lux plus the Sivir for you guys, but you guys decided to actually split up that bot lane instead, which in itself is all right. You know, the Rakan trying to take that away, that's a really powerful duo. But I was actually curious if you had any insight into that, because like to me, like the Lux pick is like actually really good into the Rakan. I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a limit to how much I can go into all that, but yeah, in that situation you have some different possibilities. One is taking the Rakan away to deny the Xayah Rakan, which is a really strong combo, or we could opt into something like the Lux, knowing they're going to take the Rakan and knowing that Lux is a pretty good counter to Rakan, right? In the end, we decided to split them apart, and yeah, I mean, it's no secret that Huli is pretty good on Rakan.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, his roams into the mid lane especially.
It worked out pretty well, so we're surely not regretting that decision.
Was there anything surprising to you about OG's draft at all?
Not necessarily, actually. I feel like this was pretty expected. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually we don't see like Sylas and Aatrox left up. I think a lot of red side teams are banning those. So
yeah, well, often many of these OPs are banned, right? In this case, both Sylas and Aatrox, who are both considered pretty strong, were left up, and well, we had the choice of which one to pick, went for Sylas, so I think it's pretty natural they take the Aatrox.
yeah.
And then when it comes to the game, as said, you guys are doing really well, yet OG actually held the gold lead for a long time, which of course you can't see. But talk to me about the beginning of the game. What was the main priority with this comp in the early game for you?
So I think a big one was trying to play around the Sylas in the mid lane, try to give him a lead, and then try to use his pressure to then impact the side lanes. And I think the first step went pretty well. We got Sylas ahead, but then after that...
Wait, but it was Shen in the mid lane.
Yeah.
You put Aatrox behind.
Okay, so later on, when we put Sylas in the mid lane, then we actually... then we got him ahead, right? I actually forgot we swapped around. But
yeah, and then use the Shen to TP top lane, right? Yeah.
We got Sylas ahead, and then we were supposed to use his pressure to then impact the other lanes. I feel like when it came to that, we kind of dropped the ball a little bit. I feel like we had the right ideas, but we never actually got to pressure properly. We never really got to play for plates or get drakes or really do anything. Why exactly, I'm not entirely sure. I feel like, from my perspective in the early game, I was barely farming. I was just running around everywhere trying to do stuff, but we never really got to do too much for some reason.
Yeah, it felt like it was going well for a long time for you guys, and then around like the bottom lane, especially where you used the Herald and maybe dove a little bit too far and overcommitted, that sort of stalled things out.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty big turning point in the game. But even earlier than that, I feel like if we played it a little bit better, had a bit better coordination, then maybe we could have gotten some more plays. Maybe we could have pressured them a little harder. But Origen also defended really well, and it was just really hard to push through.
It looked like it, and as you say, you did make good moves and you got kills, right? But it didn't necessarily result in anything else. Now, Ender was quite positive about one move in particular you pulled when you decided to roam mid.
Yeah, there was like the super early mid roam at 6 minutes, and to set up the play, I believe bot lane had actually just gotten frozen by Origen too. So it was like, if you were to send your bot lane back to bot lane, they would have to be a little overextended. Maybe you have to spend some time down there too. So I really liked the call, just like go mid lane. I've like never seen a 4-man mid gank at 6 minutes.
Exactly. We're going to take a look at the replay. It is going to start pause, so you want to set up why exactly you thought Fnatic made this decision, and then Broxa can say if that was exactly true or not.
Right. So again, at this point, you've actually just recalled with Hylissang and Reckless. They've started walking mid lane, and the reason they do it, I think, is because Patrick has the forecaster creeps plus the cannon minion here, which means he can effectively freeze this lane for forever. But because you guys go mid, he's forced to push it out, which means that you guys, after that play, can go pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it was just a really smart play from our bot lane, recognizing that if they go bot, they're not really going to be able to do anything, and with this freeze, they're just essentially going to lose out, right? So rather than just heading back there and losing out on the trades, they wanted to join me on a mid lane gang and try to make a play together.
You're like, yes, I get help.
Yeah, to get an advantage elsewhere. So I feel like that was a really creative roam that worked out really well, and then yeah, just
I mean, you even got reckless a little bit further ahead too, because I think he took that wave and the next wave in mid lane, then went bot lane and picked up the 2 waves that were crashing into the tower. So maybe feels bad a little bit for Bwipo. He was pretty far behind the Kennen eventually, but reckless got a lot.
Did we actually have Shen mid at that point?
Yeah, you had Shen mid for that play.
I thought that we swapped
Were you in
around
this game,
eventually.
Brooks?
Yeah, I
No,
was,
but that was actually, so I really liked that with the Shen mid, because if it's Sylas mid, Nuke Duck can reactively flash away from the E, right? But if it's the taunt flash, you can't dodge that.
Yeah, no, for some reason I thought we swapped around so that Sylas swapped into mid lane eventually, but
I feel like the lane swap
don't know.
confused you guys more than did Origin.
I don't know. It was a long game, a pretty stressful one, so
Yeah.
I don't remember all parts of the early game too well.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you some more things out of the mid game and the late game. There's a replay I want to look at specifically, which is actually a really good engage by OG themselves. Now, at this point, of course, you guys probably know this can happen, right? So were you caught off guard by this?
We definitely were caught a little bit off guard by this. We knew that there was a possibility of Kennen looking for a flank, but the fact that we were standing mid lane and this ward was right behind us caught us a bit off guard, and then all of a sudden, there was just chaos trying to figure out where do we run, how do we survive this, how do we get Reckless out of here alive. That turned out to be impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this ward was not expected.
Yeah, it was unexpected. I think it was interesting too, because Origen, about a minute before had the option. They ended up pushing mid lane and putting those deep wards down instead of taking river control. And they had one option. It was either get control around the Baron, avoid that being snuck away, or put down these deep wards for a teleport. And I thought that was actually a really clever move by them to try and set up for that team fight.
Yeah, let's quickly take a look at the final team fight as well. I believe this is from the side of Nemesis's pro view. So for you, it will be interesting to see what your mid laner does in situations like this. Let's take a look at that final replay. Yeah, you think he's doing well?
I mean, he's stunned right now.
Yeah, he killed one guy. Great
That was
start.
pretty strong.
Has the Aatrox ult ongoing.
What was your thinking in this fight?
Well, to be fair, this fight was pretty stressful for me because all that happened for me was that I secured the Baron and then I just died
You
on the
died,
spot.
so
I
you
wasn't
had
even
to-
part of it, so I was just, kind of spectating and,
But
and
you did
shouting.
what you had
like,
to do, though.
Yeah, I was just trying to, shout, go for this guy, focus this guy, do this, and just, looking a bit from the sidelines
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't really do anything myself. I just died.
I mean, you did do something really important, which was use your cask to knock away cold so you could get the smite.
that's
You ended
true.
up getting in the pit at the end, so we won't really talk about that, but the idea was
small
there.
details. Doesn't matter.
Finally, our Kia player of the game was Nemesis with 42% of the votes. You were in the vote, but you didn't make it, Braxa. Can you say something about kind of the development of you and Nemesis? Because it's looking very good so far.
Yeah, I feel like Nemesis is really starting to prove himself in the league. Last split, he was kind of known for playing Lissandra every game, and he's starting to move away from that, starting to actually hard carry some of the game. Is just generally doing a really, really good job, I feel like. And yeah, me and him are starting to have pretty good synergy as well. In the past, it kind of reminds me of my relationship with Caps, where it took a while for us to actually get a good synergy. Like in the beginning, everyone said that me and Caps don't have any synergy at all, and then eventually we started becoming one of the best, if not the best duo in Europe. And same thing is starting to happen with Nemesis. He's doing really well, and he's fitting really well into the team at this point.
I mean, if we see where you and Caps ended up, I think that's really promising.
Yeah, I think the evolution with you guys is pretty cool too, because when I'm looking at him in the spring split, right, it was more about him rotating with you to get dives off on, bot lane a lot of the time, top lane sometimes too. Whereas this split, in the first 3 games, 2 of those games, you've actually had a lot of impact on his lane in particular. So to see you guys, I'm not sure if you have more trust now or it's just like the way you guys are trying to play the game, but it seems like it's a positive step forward.
I think it's just getting to know each other really more than anything. Like we are starting to know each other better. We are starting to communicate better together, and then it's easier for us to notice these opportunities and communicate and set them up.
Okay. Finally, very quickly, we know, of course, the sub situation is happening with you guys at Dance Time in the roster as well. How are you doing with that in general? You are playing like insanely well, so.
I feel like I've been pretty good at handling it. In the beginning, it was a bit frustrating for me, having to share my spot. I wasn't too happy about it, but after some time, I managed to turn it into motivation more than anything. Like rather than being sad about it, I was just like, okay, if anything, I'm now going to use this to actually try to make me grow even more and try to make me a better player. And knowing that Dan is around now, wanting to steal my spot or whatever you want to call it, just motivates me more than anything. And I have to fight even harder to actually keep it. And Yeah, I feel like so far it's going pretty well. Still had a few hiccups here and there, so I'm not entirely satisfied, but I'm dealing pretty well with it.
It's great to hear that you're taking it on the chin and just seeing it as motivation and not as something that is a blocker. Thank you so much for joining us, Broxa. Fnatic is doing fantastic so far. And coming up next, we've got Splice and Schalke 04 clashing on the Rift. See who comes out on top after this.